Greetings everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar. My name is Rajesh, and in today's session, we're going to be decoding the U.S. college maze. Before I do that, an introduction about me and Jupiter. As I said, my name is Rajesh, and I've been part of Jupiter for the last 5-6 years. And at the time, me and my fellow coaches have guided a number of students across various profiles. We've looked at both domestic U.S. citizen students as well as international students. Since we're based both in the United States and in India, we've explored out-of-state colleges for our students. We've successfully admitted students in private colleges such as the University of Chicago, New York University, Rice University, and such, and across various disciplines from science and technology, engineering, medicine, to finance, to economics, accounting, business, and even flight schools. And last but not the least, when you think about the U.S. colleges and the cost of attendance, which can go up to $100,000 per year for the private colleges, financial planning and strategy as a factor in the college list selection of colleges that the student would apply to out of the 2,000 or so colleges that exist becomes of paramount importance. So if this appeals to you, continue to listen in and hopefully you gain some valuable information in the process. Now, the U.S. college admissions landscape has significantly changed in the time that we've been around, starting out with the pre-COVID, where we cater to students whose profiles, and the process, I should say, matched with what kind of is coming to existence now, with some differences, but the student had to go through the standardized test scores, which is say SAT and ACTs, which the student had to write and get a compelling score. They had to have the right GPAs, of course, the grade point averages, marks, credentials, grades, whatever you want to call it. And then there was a section of colleges that also looked at demonstrated interest in terms of how the student presented themselves in terms of the knowledge of the college. Visiting the college was important. Attending some seminars were considered to be important, and how that has changed in the whole in the last 5-6 years since the pandemic hit us. It has also meant that the strategizing for those kinds of changes has become important, and that's where we specialized in terms of catering to the test blind that the University of California has now adopted, to some of the colleges that went test optional. So this, if the student had a test score, they could submit, and they needed, if they didn't actually write the exams or didn't want to submit. So that was a clear strategy that we had to adopt based on how their scores, really stood up in terms of what the middle 50% ranges were for those colleges. And to now, what we're looking at is test required. Most of the IVs, in fact, all but one IV college is now mandating that the students submit their test scores. This has also meant that in the last 5-6 years, there's been a shrinking acceptance rates at the elite colleges and institutions. A lot more applicants who would normally otherwise not applied to those colleges have started applying. In fact, we ourselves have admitted students in some of those choices colleges where the students' test scores were not necessarily in the range that the colleges had previously admitted them into. But with the test optional scenario, we ignored, or we did not have the students submit their test scores, but the students still had got admitted into the choices of colleges without the adequate test score, if you will, if they had actually applied without the pandemic being in place. Now, the rising tuition is another factor that we need to consider. The colleges, private colleges, including the IVs, charge up to $100,000 per year. And if you account for airfares and other sundry costs, you're looking at nearly a $500,000 investment over the 4 years, especially if the students have siblings, the parent has other children who are either already in college or coming up to in college in the next few years. You really want to be looking at financial strategy as part of the college selection, if you will. And so personalized planning has become very essential to securing the students and the family's future in terms of return on investment and such. With that in mind, let's jump into the profiles. Now, as I said, we cater to both U.S. domestic students as well as to the international students from other countries. So, looking at the non-U.S. citizens, these could be students in the U.S., but they are not U.S. citizens. They have their parents or the family has arrived. The student has arrived in the United States during their middle school, or even in the high school. Now that presents itself some visa transition complexities. There's limited access to financial packages, which cater to mostly the U.S. citizens, students. And more importantly, actually, there is a limited knowledge about the course paths and the curriculums that they need to choose. Now, U.S. high school system is complex. There are different types of schools. There is the charter school, there is the magnet school, there are high schools that have a highly rigorous curriculum, and then there are those that don't have as much rigor. So it's important to understand what kind of programs and courses that the student needs to go through, which is kind of stress free, or at least with limited stress, so that the student is able to successfully balance their priorities in terms of school, personal, extracurriculars and such. And so the non-US citizen students and the families who arrive in middle school and high school have limited knowledge about those aspects as well as the scholarship avenue. So we coach through those aspects as well. Now, when you think about non-US citizens, they come with a profile that's maybe looking very different from what a U.S. high school student or a U.S. A school student might offer. So positioning them according to their strengths becomes important. Customizing the college list that blends their academic needs as well as a career-oriented focus. The student might look at the college as an investment that they're willing to make, and yet be able to get a good job right at the end of it. So what kind of colleges does a student need to apply to, given the fact that they're not U.S. citizens and they may not have a U.S. Citizenship or even a green card or permanent residency by the time they complete college, which presents itself a different kind of challenge in terms of being able to get through a workforce that allows them to work with the visa that they have at the end of the 4-year program, if you will. And then looking at what kind of merit-based scholarships are available. Now, international students do garner merit-based scholarships in colleges. So what kind of positioning that needs to be offered in order to give them access to those avenues as well, is something that we look at. Now, for U.S. citizens considering out-of-state colleges, typically each college or each state offers a flagship college in their own area. So Georgia has Georgia Tech, University of California that we spoke about has UC Berkeley, LA, San Diego, which are all coveted. New Jersey has the Rutgers University, which is sought after, a flagship college. Texas has UT Austin, UT Dallas. So each of the colleges have, each of the states have their own in-state colleges that the students aspire to, the domestic students. But there are also students who would like to have a different experience. Either it could be for personal growth and independence to go to a different state. A student who's been primarily in the Midwest states might want to enroll themselves in California. They might want to go explore the Northeast, Boston, New Jersey, New York University, Georgia Tech, and such. So they might want to do, explore those kind of colleges. And there are specialized academic programs that the students might be interested in. For example, Colorado School of Mines is very coveted for students who want to do geological engineering, or if a student is interested in mechatronics, which is a specialized program that blends mechanical engineering, electronics, and computer science. There is Middle Tennessee State University, MTSU, that's very coveted that students would like to enroll themselves in. Or it could be Stevens Institute of Technology in New Jersey that offers highly specialized engineering programs. So there's all kinds of universities which may not be in the limelight, but yet offers very attractive propositions for the students. So we cater to those kinds of special colleges, which may not be something that is front and foremost when you talk to your friends and families. And we also tap into colleges that have good alumni networks for students who would like to tap into that at the end of their 4-year stint. Now, Jupyter solutions are also for out-of-state aspirants that are focused on their fit. It could be so that there's a very stressful environment the student doesn't want to go through, or they want to go through, or it could be something that they're looking at more from a diversity perspective. Many colleges have, in the United States, have a lot more diversity in terms of number of students that they admit across the globe. So a student might want to experience that. Or it could be just because the out-of-state college actually offers a better tuition in terms of what they would spend, because the out-of-state college actually offers a specialized program and offers a merit-based scholarship that either completely eliminates tuition or nearly 75% or 50% of the tuition. So they find it equally attractive to attend an out-of-state college as it might be for in-state. So there could be different kinds of profiles or colleges that the student would like to aspire. So we walk through that, and application essay coaching is part of everything, right? So applications need to be catered to specific colleges. Essay coaching, every student has to write one or more essays, usually about 2 to 3 essays if you're looking at private colleges. So the student needs to be able to show themselves in the best light possible in terms of making their chances stand out amongst the dwindling acceptance rates that we just mentioned in the previous slides. Now, for U.S. citizens that are targeting the top private colleges, including the Ivies, there's strong brand value in them. There are small class sizes. Typical private colleges typically have a student to faculty ratio of 8:1, whereas that could go up to 16:1 or 20:1 in those public colleges. So some students prefer that intimate environment, and therefore small class sizes become important for them. Or it might be the elite alumni that the student aspires to tap into at the end of the college 4-year program. And so there is the U.S. citizens, students who are targeting those colleges like the Harvards and MITs, to Stanfords. We admitted students into Rice, which is a choicest college in Texas. We've also had students that get admitted to New York University, University of Chicago. These are all offer specialized programs, and I have a very, very competitive admissions process, and not to mention the elite alumni network that they can tap into at the end of the program. We also look at Ivy Leagues and top 20 college coaching plans that we have. We have a great alumni mentor network that we tap into when a student needs to speak to somebody in the existing colleges. For example, we had a student who was interested in international relations program in George Washington University in the DC area, had tapped into one of our students who had graduated from a liberal arts college a few years ago, and guided the student through how they should approach the college application process and what they can expect from an international relations program. And interviews and recommendation strategy is also something that is part of what we help the students and families with. So our impact, 85% success rate in top 50 college admissions. We have secured more than $5 million in scholarships over the last 5-6 years that we've been in existence. And we thrive on client reference and repeat rating. So if this sounds interesting to us, before we jump into Q&A, feel free to schedule a free 30-minute consultation. We'll look at your profile, your student's profile, your family profile, and advice. You can also reach out to us and stay in tune with us. You can contact us on this email ID. Look at our website. And last but not the least, thank you for attending this webinar. Hope it was useful. Stay on for the Q&A. connect with us on Facebook and LinkedIn on these profiles. Thank you and have a great day.